Hey everyone. So yesterday I made a video for National Suicide Prevention Week, which touched on some tips and advice on what to do if you know someone who's thinking about suicide, or maybe you yourself are thinking about suicide. And I wanted to also take the opportunity to split the messages into two videos, because I do listen to your feedback, I do see your comments, and I know that there was a request for both. I wasn't really sure whether it would be smarter to put this message into one sort of longer video that people could share, or whether it made more sense to make two of them. So to me, it makes more sense to just do both. That way, you know, the ultimate goal here is to get this message out there. So whatever way is easier for you to share it, whether it's having it all in one message that ran about 18 minutes, or is it going to be in these smaller little bites? So this will be the first of two videos I'm going to do today. And this first one is touching on, gets a little bit deeper into what to do if you know someone who's thinking about suicide. And just to give you a little bit of my own background, I'm not a therapist. I am not that kind of mental health professional. I am a trained crisis counselor and suicide prevention specialist. So that's where I can help you. I can't give you longer term goals on how to maintain your mental health. I can tell you what's been working for me for the past 13, 14 years. I can tell you what I did, but I'm not speaking to you from a place of authority in that aspect. I am actually a writer. I've been a writer my whole life, and I was focusing on entertainment. I have my own personal background with mental health issues. I have my own suicide attempt, 18, 19 years ago now. So that's where I'm coming from. About 4 years ago, I was laid off from my writing gig, and it was everything to me. It was the dream job that I'd always wanted as a writer. And so at the time, it was a major setback. But the difference was that this was a setback that I did not go back to suicide. Oh, my dogs are going to start barking because there are trash men outside. Let's cross our fingers they don't. Okay. So my background is someone who 4 years ago, after I was laid off, after I had a setback, I continued to move forward. I worked through it. It made me very depressed, but I worked through it. And that experience, right around that same time, I stumbled on an ad for crisis counselors. And on a whim, I went ahead and answered it, and I ended up getting the job. And so for about 3-4 years, I was a suicide hotline counselor. And it was a 24-hour line. And in addition to answering suicide calls, I also took social services resource calls. So I have a little bit of information and experience in getting you connected to resources. I do not do that work anymore. I'm no longer a crisis hotline counselor. I have gone back to focusing on writing, but my goal is to use my writing, use my voice to continue to raise awareness and to continue to help people. So if you do need help, and if you're not sure, and if after watching this video you're still not sure, you can always reach out to me. I'm at twofingersbourbon@gmail.com. I am happy to talk with you. I'm happy to help you. So if you ever need to get pointed in the right direction, if you're not sure, drop me an email. Happy to help. So what we had talked about yesterday was what to do if you see someone, or you come across some suicidal content, You start to have suspicions about a friend or a family member. And I'm going to start in more of the outer realm of how I think that the way you can approach this is really going to be dependent on how well you know the person that you're approaching. So if it's not someone you know very well, if you're not comfortable being the one to reach out to them, that is okay. You do not have to be that person. All you have to do is have a desire to help. So what I would say, if it's someone that you like I've heard before from people who are moderators on Facebook message groups or any other sort of, discussion or chat like service or room. And you'll come across people there that are talking about suicide. When that happens, there's actually a really handy tool over at suicidepreventionlifeline.org. And when you go to the website, right at the top, one of the first options is Get Help. And if you hover over that, the third option is Help Someone Else. And that is the best, easiest to understand resource. So you may even want to bookmark this. If you're a moderator of a page and you see a lot of this content, I would go ahead and save this page. So what it does is when you go down and you scroll down a little bit, you're going to get some talking points, you're going to get some tips. I discussed some of those yesterday as well. Then you go down a little bit more and you're going to get to a section that is suicide safety on social media. It is an excellent resource. It breaks it down. There are 6 different platforms that they help you figure out what to do. Oh, there goes more trash men. So they have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and Periscope. So if you are on any of those sites, you can actually click on the tab. Those trash men threw me off, guys. Bear with me. So you can click on the tab and it's going to take you step by step. It'll give you directions on how to report the content. And when I say report the content, nothing scary is going to happen to the person. The police are not going to break down their door. What will happen is that the administrators of that social media platform will then reach out to that member directly. They're going to say, hey, someone let us know that you've posted some content that might be talking about self-harm. We want to check in with you and make sure that you're okay. And they're going to give the person the phone number to the Suicide Lifeline, and they're also going to give them some other resources to check out. So it's not like you're turning someone into the Gestapo or something. It doesn't work like that. So that's one really easy way to help someone when you don't really know them well enough to approach them. You could also use this, one of my subscribers, Ken, also mentioned, how you react to someone when they talk about this and how to approach this subject. And I want to thank him very much for helping me figure out how to word these things, even though I'm not very good at wording things. So you may not be the one that's comfortable to approach a coworker about this. Maybe you know some of their mutual friends. Maybe you follow them on social media. Maybe that's an avenue you can take for someone that you don't know very well, but you want to make sure that they get the information that they need. The next connection would be someone who's a close friend, someone who might be comfortable reaching out, or a family member. And that's where the 5 action steps that I discussed in depth yesterday are going to come into play. And I'm not going to go back over them too much. We're going to just be real quick with this. This is a process that we do also on a suicide hotline. So the first thing that you would do for a friend or family member, if you start to suspect they're thinking about suicide, is to be very open and blunt and ask outright, are you thinking about suicide? And be prepared to take their answer seriously. One of the biggest things I get from callers is that they feel silly about calling. And to me, if the issue you're having is serious enough to make you think about taking your own life, then we need to take it seriously. Maybe I do think it's silly. Maybe I do think that you need some perspective. And if it's an extreme case, if I really think the person is completely just misunderstanding a situation, I will try to gently inject a little bit of reality. Because often when we get, when someone gets immersed in their depression or in their anxiety, they can blow things up. They can internalize. They can overinflate. It's just the thing that we do. So if you are close enough to the person to have that kind of conversation with them, sometimes that is helpful. Of, listening. I understand that that's upsetting for you. I can see how, if I were in your position, I would also be really upset by that. Have you thought about this? And it's always trying to, for me, when I talk to someone, it's making sure not to ask judgmental questions, and making sure to ask questions that aren't about me and are about helping the person to turn this problem over in their head. They're coming to you for a reason, because they trust your opinion. So don't try to placate them with glib, slogans or comments. Give them your honest take on it. That's what they really want to hear. They want honesty. They want to know that someone genuinely cares about what they're saying and is listening. And I think, again, what I also touched on yesterday was that if you're not comfortable being that person, that's okay. And so that's when you need to think about reaching out to someone who would be comfortable doing that. Maybe it's a closer friend. Maybe it's a family member. What you may need to do is a little bit of detective work and get on some of this person's social media pages. Look at who do they interact with the most, who comments the most on their statuses. That may be someone that you might want to reach out to and bring them into your confidence. And the whole thing here is to just continue to be from a position of support. I'm not here to accuse. I'm not here to judge. I am just here to support and encourage you to go get help. And that's really the next step. And that is where I think a lot of loved ones start to get frustrated, because ultimately it's the other person's decision to go and get help. They need to want it. And that can also be part of the message that you give them. I need you to want this. I need you to want to get better. I need to see you making an effort. And for me personally, the effort is really important. You may not see results immediately. It took me a good maybe 4 or 5 years. Once I really started to buckle down and really start focusing on my mental health, it still took several years for me to get to a point where I actually felt like I was managing it and I was handling it. So it's about the desire and the want to get better. And it can be really frustrating when they don't have that desire. And we can definitely talk about that at a later point. I don't want to run too late on this video. So that is really what I want to say, is just, be open, listen. There's a lot of hotlines. There's a lot of support out there. So if you run into someone, or if someone confides in you, I'll have all of those hotlines listed in the description. You can do this based on the person's need. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline is always an excellent first step. And I've also talked before about the 211 line. It's like any other 3-digit number. You just dial 211 from your phone, and that'll get you connected to a local resource provider. You could do that with your friend or family member in the room and immediately get them help. So those are just some quick steps. I would be happy to answer any of your questions in the comments. If you need any more explanation, if you need some more details, please drop me a line. Again, this is for Suicide Prevention Week. We're really trying to raise awareness. We're really trying to get people out there that want to help each other and take care of each other. So good luck, everyone. And again, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me.